Welcome back to the channel for a preview of 1166 live in Qatar on March 1st at the Lusail Sports Arena. One Championship's debut in Qatar, of course. Things have been building to this card for quite some time. And it's exciting to have, a big event like this so soon after 1165, which saw the promotion return to Japan. And that felt like, these big kind of numbered cards always feel a little bit extra special. You tend to get a few more big fights and things like that. And, this 1166 card has gone through a couple of changes, which I think have, weakened it a little bit, but there are still some very good fights on here, and 3 title fights at the top of the card that I think are all super interesting. So plenty of exciting stuff to get into. At the time of recording this video, I don't actually know how you're going to be able to watch it in the UK, because I assumed it would be global pay-per-view, just like 111's. Sorry, these things get confusing to say sometimes. I'm sure you can understand that. 1165 was, of course, pay-per-view across the world. And then it was reported that this card was going to be live and free on Prime Video for North American watchers. But obviously, the time zone difference maybe, I think, is a reason for that. So here in the UK, the time zone actually works out really well for us. So I'm not sure whether it'll be on Sky, whether it'll be a pay-per-view. I'm not too sure at the current time of recording. I'm hoping to have another chat with Mr. Nick Atkin. Hopefully you checked out the video that we did ahead of One Fight Night 19 on this channel. I'm hoping to do another chat with Nick sometime in the next few days before the event, either on my channel or his channel or something like that. We haven't worked that out yet, but hopefully we'll be able to dive into that, how you can watch it and things like that, and also dive into some of these matchups and the narratives around them. But as always, I'm here to give you the reasons to tune into this card. If you haven't been keeping up to date with it, I will give you all of the info that you will need. Let's get this card pulled up real quick. Flip myself over, there you go. So here is the official match card. Yeah, that kind of works, I guess. Match card graphic, to use a wrestling term there. We've got 10 bouts on this card, headlined by 3 MMA world title fights. As you will know, if you've checked out my coverage from last year, MMA was in a weird place in One Championship last year. But, the majority of the title fights that we got were in Muay Thai and kickboxing. Obviously, we got a lot of submission grappling ones in there too. But I'm just really happy to see MMA kind of taking back a bit more of a major role in the promotion. It kind of felt like last year was a little bit on the back burner. Muay Thai was kind of the main focus, and kickboxing and submission grappling. MMA was kind of just in the mix. But it does feel like so far in 2024, it's been back in a big way. And, this card is a good example of that, because there's a lot more MMA going on. So I'm excited to see that straight up. And I think, like I said earlier, the 3 world title fights at the top of this card are all very, very good and worth your time. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Let's pull up this other graphic so we can dive into each fight and work our way up the card towards those title fights. So kicking off the card, we've got a strawweight MMA contest here between Kaito Yamakita and Jeremy Miado. A pretty good fight. Obviously, these two guys both fought at 1165 in big strawweight contests. Jeremy Miado. No, I'm getting confused, aren't I? I'm thinking of Danny Kingad. Jeremy Miado hasn't fought in a little while. His last fight was Lito Adiwang, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Lito Adiwang rematch at One Fight Night 16. I was getting confused with Danny Kingad for a minute. Is Danny Kingad not on this card? Did I make that up? Yeah, I did. Well, it's hard to keep up to date. I'll try. But Jeremy Miado, a guy that I really, really like watching, of course, coming off of those 2 losses to Lito Adiwang and Mansur Malachiev. So definitely in need of a bounce back win here. That run he was on when he beat Lito Adiwang the first time, and then that stoppage over Daniel Williams, that performance was fantastic. So excited to see him back, and Kaito Yamakita coming off of that loss to Bokang Massanyane. I always say Massanyane, but I think it's Massanyane. That was a tough stylistic matchup, I think, for him to come into. Obviously, comes from a grappling background, so to come up against Massanyane on your strawweight for a big strawweight matchup is always going to be a tough one. But Jeremy Miado, a little bit more of an all-rounder, some good striking, so a little bit more of a better stylistic matchup for Kaito Yamakita. But I'm quite high on Jeremy Miado, so interested to see how this one plays out. That should be fun whilst it lasts. As you probably saw from the match graphic, there's a lot of fights on here that, personally for me, I'm not, super, closely paying attention to. You got the flyweight Muay Thai contest there between Zakaria Al-Jamari and Ali Zaldayev, and then the Shinji Suzuki taking on Hanzi Hao at bantamweight in the Muay Thai rule set. For me, where this card kind of picks up again for interest is that fight you can see at the top there. Zafer Sayik from Turkey taking on Vladimir Kuzmin. Kuzmin, of course, was supposed to fight Nongo on this card. That would have been a banger. I was really, really excited for that one because I thought Kuzmin's looked really good lately. I remember that fight with Jonathan Haggerty on Haggerty's bantamweight debut. I know a lot of people thought it was close. I actually thought Kuzmin might have done enough to win that one. Obviously, you all know how Haggerty has gone on since then, and then Kuzmin was able to bounce back with a win last time out. So I was really excited to see Kuzmin versus Nongo. Obviously, Nongo is now going to be fighting on one Friday fights. Is it in May? I think it is start of May. Could be wrong on that, but he's taking on Kulabdalam, so that'll be a banger as well. But yeah, I really want to see the Kuzmin Nongo matchup, but still excited to see Kuzmin nonetheless because I think he is a serious player in and around the bantamweight Muay Thai division. Up next, you've got submission grappling contest. Osama Al-Mawi taking on Kleber Souza. Both of these guys, of course, have previously come into one championship to face off with Mikey Musumeci, the one flyweight submission grappling world champion. This is a cool kind of position to be in for is it Al-Mawi or Al-Mawai? I could be saying it wrong, so I do apologize. Osama. Names, one championship. You got to expect me to get a few wrong, right? It just comes with the territory. But he is, of course, the first. Was he the first ADCC winner from this region, or something like that? It's been hectic, this schedule, so I do apologize. But yeah, cool spot for him to be on nonetheless. I'm sure he'll have some fans out there to support him. And Kleber Souza, of course, looking to bounce back as well from that loss to Musumeci. So not a home run of a submission grappling contest necessarily, and I'm by no means a submission grappling specialist. So if you want to get a breakdown of this fight, I'm sure that if you guys are particularly interested in that, you'll have your go-to spots to go to for information on that. So I will leave that to the experts. Up next, you've got a catchweight boxing contest. Zuhair Al-Qatani. Admittedly, I've only kind of learned about him this week. He's an undefeated pro boxer. I think he's 8-0 or 9-0. Mehdi Zatout will be a name that is probably a bit more familiar to One Championship fans as a Muay Thai striker who's had some big fights in the past. He's fought Nongo in One Championship, so a little bit more of the known quantity in this matchup, I suppose. But of course, he's going to be competing in a boxing contest, so hard to say how well he'll do in this one. Like I said, I don't know too much about Al-Qatani. I would imagine that of course, he's from Saudi Arabia, so he'll probably get a decent reception from the fans there. And I don't know if he's a guy that they're really looking to push over there in that region. So we'll see how this one plays out. A little bit of a weird one that it's a boxing contest, but we will see. You always tend to get one of these strange matchups on these cards, so it comes with the territory, I suppose. Heavyweight MMA contest up next. Arjan Bula taking on Amir Ali at Bari. I actually thought that Ali at Bari was going to get the next shot at Malakin, but of course, as we know, Malakin had other plans. So Ali Bari has produced 3 consecutive finishes since his loss to Anatoly Malakin. He beat Mauro Sorelli, former champion or former title challenger? Former title challenger, right? Brandon Vera, of course, former champion, and Dustin Johnson last time out at One Fight Night 12, where he had that heated confrontation with Malakin. Like I said, I thought he was going to get the title shot, and then his opponent, a man that also has a long and storied history with Anatoly Malakin, Arjan Bula, who has been inactive for the majority of his time in One Championship. Of course, did come back last year to face Anatoly Malakin at long last, and the fight wasn't close. Malakin would just look a step ahead of him at all times up until the finish, and I believe the 3rd round. So big chance here for Bula to get right back in title contention. I don't think anyone's going to be necessarily, after all of the drama between him and Malakin and that fight, I don't think anyone's going to be, really pulling for him to get another shot at Malakin. But who knows? If he goes out there and puts on a good performance against Ali Abari, he's already the guy that you would put forward as the next opponent for Malakin. So a huge spot for him. Be interesting to see how he's received out there because, I would say the wider One Championship fan base haven't been the biggest fans of Arjan Bula since he won the title off of Brandon Vera. But Maybe he'll get a good reception. Maybe the fans will side with Amir Ali Akbari. That could be a fun aspect to this matchup. And yeah, really, really big fight at heavyweight, actually. So I'm excited to see how that one plays out. We move on to our first strawweight, our first MMA World Championship fight of the night. It takes place in the strawweight division, as I just said. The champion Jared Brooks facing the former champion Joshua Pasio for a second time. Of course, Brooks did win the title off of Pasio back at 1-1-6-4 in 2022. Brooks hasn't defended the title yet. He went and had that grappling contest with Mikey Musumeci. And Pasio ended up going on to beat Mansour Malachiev to get back into title contention, which was a fight that I thought was actually quite a difficult one for him. So to come through that was impressive. Will he be able to beat Jared Brooks the second time around? I think he definitely would have learned a lot from the first fight with Brooks. I think Brooks definitely would have surprised him in some ways. And I think Brooks was probably a little bit surprised as well at how tough Pasio was, especially with the takedowns, right? Brooks grappling base, and he wasn't really able to use his grappling a whole lot. He did do some clinch work and stuff like that, but wasn't really able to implement the takedowns. Ended up winning the majority of the fight on the feet. And, if you were previewing the matchup ahead of time, you would say that if the fight plays out on the feet, that's probably where it will favor Joshua Pasio, but he wasn't really able to capitalize on that. So I'm sure he would have gone back to the drawing board with loads and loads to work on. Whether it will be enough to beat Brooks, I'm not sure, honestly. I think that Brooks is also going to be better. But I do expect it to be a closer fight this time around. So I'm excited for this one. It definitely feels like this needed to happen. So hopefully, this is kind of the end of one chapter and the start of another for the strawweight division. Moving on, this fight is so good. Featherweight MMA World Championship is on the line. Tang Kai, the champion, taking on the interim champion, Tan Lee. Tang Kai, of course, did beat Lee for the title back in 2020. These two guys were supposed to run it back last year. Tang Kai got injured, I believe, and Tan Lee ended up fighting Ilya Freemanov for the interim title. And Tan Lee showed in that fight with Freemanov that he isn't just a one-trick pony. I know that he's spoken in the lead up to this matchup. He's going to knock out Tang Kai in the first round and all of this. And that's kind of where he went wrong the first time around, in my opinion, is he thought he would just be able to land on Tang Kai. And Tang Kai fought an excellent game plan and just stuck to it for the whole thing. And sure, it made the fight not super exciting at times, but his ability to stay focused on that game plan and not deviate is what won him the fight. And even then Tan Lee was able to catch him with some shots and put a bit of danger into the fight. So interesting to see how this one plays out. Like I said, that Tan Lee win over Ilya Freemanov, I think, really spoke volumes about Tan Lee getting better, maybe learning from that loss to Tang Kai that he shouldn't chase finishes and should just let it come, because that submission came out of nowhere, and I just didn't see that coming at all. So I thought that was a really impressive showing for him. And whether he'll be able to win the belt back from Tang Kai, unify the belts, of course, it's a tough ask because we haven't seen Tang Kai since that fight. So it's hard to gauge where he's going to be at. I think that his style is pretty difficult for Tan Lee because he is well-rounded. So we will see how this one plays out. But I've been really, really excited for this one for a while now. So excited to see this one finally get underway. And then, of course, our main event, the middleweight world championship on the line. The belt, of course, belongs to the Dutch Knight, Reinier de Ridder. He's going to be defending the belt against Anatoly Malakin, the two-weight world champion, both at light heavyweight and heavyweight. Of course, Malakin is the only man to ever defeat de Ridder. That was up at light heavyweight back at 1 on Prime Video 5 in December of 2022. De Ridder hasn't fought in MMA since. He did have that grappling contest with Ty Rotolo at One Fight Night 10, but this is his MMA return. Malakin, of course, has been a little bit more active. He did go and fight Arjan Buller after winning the light heavyweight title to then unify the heavyweight title, and now he's looking to make history by becoming a 3-weight world champion. The big talking point when this fight was put together is how is Malakin going to make middleweight? The dude just fought Arjan Buller at heavyweight and did not look undersized either. From all accounts, it seems like the weight cut is going very well for him. He seems extremely confident that not only is he going to make the weight successfully and healthy, that he is going to stop Reinier de Ridder once again in the first round. This fight is so interesting, I think, because for me, when it was put together, the weight was the biggest talking point, and I said that if Malakin can make that weight, I'd pick him to win the fight. But RDR, seems so motivated after that loss. You know, he kind of had some time to lick his wounds, and then since then it's just been campaigning for this fight. Um, I did actually speak to RDR the other day. I wrote a piece on him for Fighters Only, which probably won't be out at the time of recording this video, but it should be out by the time the event starts. So you can check that out. It was a bit more of a background piece about his life, his mindset, his motivation, his goals, all of that kind of stuff, rather than this fight specifically. Which I think he was probably happy to have a little bit of a break from talking about middleweight and avenging his loss and all of that stuff. So it's a very good chat. So hopefully you check that out. But yeah, I love RDR. One of my favorite fighters to watch in MMA. Can he pull this off? Can he get revenge over Malakin and defend the middleweight title? I think it's a really tough ask, honestly, just because his style, he's been able to take these guys down and just make light work of them on the ground. But taking Anatoly Malakin down is a very tough ask indeed. And if you can't take him down and you got to stand with him, that's tough. And I know that RDR has kind of been kicking himself that one, his takedowns were sloppy because he was already hurt on the feet before he kind of started trying to go for them. And he was also really disappointed in himself for his striking. He says that his striking is a lot better than that, and he didn't really showcase it. And that Malakin really caught him off guard with how much better his striking was than in previous fights. He said that, in the fights he did watch of Malakin, though he did confess he didn't really watch a whole lot of him, and definitely did underestimate him to some degree. He said the Malakin kind of just, would just swing big punches, and then against RDR, it was footwork, he was keeping in tight and things like that, and the speed, the accuracy was all there. So he definitely underestimated Malakin. Will taking him seriously this time around be enough for him to get the win? I'm not sure. But this fight is so interesting to me on every single level. I can't wait for this main event. I think it's probably one of the best main events that One Championship could put together right now. So definitely a fitting fight for this Qatar card. One of the things I spoke to Nick Atkin about in that One Fight Night 19 video, we spoke about a ton of topics. It was like over an hour and stuff, was, whether the fans in Qatar are going to really, show up for this card, because how many guys on this card are there that they're going to root for? And whilst I think that they have definitely made an effort to add some more, hometown favorite guys, I think that those 3 title fights, I think you could probably put them on anywhere in the world and they would be very good. Are they going to get, these crazy reactions from the crowd and stuff? We'll see, but I think that these 3 title fights at the top of the card are your main reasons for tuning in. They should be very, very good. And I am nonsense. I am actually excited to watch Arjan Bula versus Amir Ali-Akbari, just because the stakes, just to see where Bula's at, just to see whether Ali-Akbari can really earn himself that title shot. And the other fight I would point to, definitely tune in to watch Vladimir Kuzmin. Like I said, he is a real threat in this division, I think. And yeah, I think that'll just about do it for this 1166 preview. So thank you for checking out this video. Make sure you hit subscribe so you stay up to date with everything that I'm doing on this channel. You can follow me on X at Kyle Diamond JOU. I'll leave that in the description below just in case you're confused by anything that's going on. Fighters Only piece on RDR. Nick Atkin video hopefully coming soon this week. All of that stuff. Like I said, stay tuned to the YouTube channel, onto my social media, so you can keep up to date with everything across all of those channels, because yeah, it's a bit scattergun, but that's how we like to do things over here. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Enjoy the fights, and I will see you very soon.